First Alert 4 Investigates is asking tonight, where are the receipts? Chief Investigator Lauren Traeger was tipped about questionable spending of your tax dollars by St. Louis City leaders, some with big authority. We found documents detailing charges at fancy restaurants, the Lego store, even the Polar Express. Now St. Louis City Hall is flipping the script, trying to charge us money to get what you have the right to know.
From Star Wars spaceships to Disney castles, cool car garages, and don't get us started on Spider-Man. Lego prices pack a punch for parents. That's exactly why the Lego store caught our eye on a recent credit card statement paid for by St. Louis City taxpayers.
What is that?
In fact, there's quite a few eyebrow-raising purchases in the last year.
A bunch of Walmart and Sam's Club.
According to Benjamin Singer,
The Innsbruck Conference Center.
the CEO of Good Government Group, Show Me Integrity.
This is pretty hard to justify.
We asked him to review the monthly statements, a credit card assigned to various city departments, which racks up thousands of dollars of charges a month, even $2,000 in late fees over the year. But the monthly statements say little about what was purchased, only where and for how much. It's how we noticed 3 charges at Lego on June 8th, 9th, and 11th for exactly $399.95 each. Then there's purchases for the Polar Express in St. Louis on December 1st and 5th, one for $470, one for $350, plus dozens of other line items for Walmart, Best Buy, Sam's Club, Amazon, $460 at Chick-fil-A on May 31st, $490 at Papa John's the very next day, all on the credit card of St. Louis City Supply Commissioner Chris Carter. But when we asked for the receipts, his office replied they didn't have any.
These definitely look very questionable, and it's inexcusable that there wouldn't be underlying receipts.
We follow the rules.
Carter tells us he can justify every purchase, though most, he says, weren't for his department, but for area recreation centers.
They spend their time, building Legos.
And so are the Legos still there?
Yes, yeah.
And kids from the center programs, he said, got to go on the Polar Express. The food purchases also for the centers.
We are actually saving taxpayers a ton of money going to Sam's ourselves versus buying from a U.S. Foods, a Cisco.
Policies and procedures, he says, are followed. But there are other purchases, too. The health director, as another example, has spent money on meals 6 times in a year at Lafayette Square Restaurant 1111 Mississippi, more than $900 at Red Robin, and more than $3,000 to a local catering company. Circuit Attorney Gabe Gore also dining at Katie's Pizza, Jack Patrick's, and McGurk's. Does this raise more questions for you?
If they don't want us to think the worst about these receipts, then they need to provide those receipts.
Singer says it's simple. The receipts would show who went and what they bought.
Keeping track of your receipts when you're spending your employer's money is something we're all used to doing for our jobs if we're spending our employer's money. That's even more important when it's the taxpayers, the citizens, the voters of St. Louis who these department heads are working for.
But getting those receipts proved quite challenging. First Alert 4 Investigates first submitted a public records request for them January 8th. The city comptroller's office, which is responsible for those receipts, said they needed more than a month to provide them. And though we asked for an on-camera interview with Comptroller Darlene Green, no time was ever provided.
The city of St. Louis is one of the worst offenders in the state in terms of how long they are dragging out the process for producing records.
David Rowland is a sunshine law expert who says the public has a right to know where their money is being spent.
In the Show Me state, they should show me the records.
Absolutely, absolutely. We're trying to live up to our state's own moniker.
One department, the city courts, made it quite easy. Their charge of more than $770 at Chris's at the docket was quickly explained. A luncheon with judges and lawmakers. It wasn't paid for with tax dollars. A nonprofit reimbursed the city. A copy of the check provided to us within 24 hours of us asking for it. But not so with other city departments.
Should that be a concern to the public that it's taking that long to get what is arguably relatively simple documentation?
It absolutely should. One of the things about holding a government entity accountable is timeliness, right?
Even getting the city's own credit card policies took weeks, but in hand, they raise yet more questions. Office furniture, for example, is deemed explicitly inappropriate, so is alcohol. Prepayment of meals for meetings and receptions is allowed, the policies say, but meals with contractors, consultants, or employees are not allowed at all.
Anytime you see a government that is deviating either from their own internal policies or what's been set down by a higher authority, you have to start questioning if they have not complied here, what else are they not complying with?
Bottom line, is this something you think needs to be looked into?
I'm glad you brought it to my attention. It's going to create more in-depth investigation from our part.
St. Louis Alderwoman Pamela Boyd,
But it's some that you like, okay.
is vice chair of the Budget Committee.
Pickle Miss Gourmet.
She too says the purchases make her want to know more.
Red Robin, almost $1,000. That's a restaurant. We just can't frivolously spend money and there's no accountability for it.
Important to public trust, she says she now wants to formally inquire, are the current credit card policies being followed or do they need to change?
It's the taxpayers' dollars. We need to be accountable for those dollars being spent.
Though the city knows we've been working on this story for weeks, just yesterday we received a statement from the comptroller's office acknowledging there were, quote, unauthorized expenditures on the card, and they have requested and received reimbursements from departments. But there's clearly some confusion about what is allowed and what is not on these credit cards, with departments like the circuit attorney pushing back on any idea that meals wouldn't be allowed. In fact, the comptroller's office provided us with a different set of policies than what certain department heads actually signed. Again, we asked for an interview with the comptroller, but so far no luck. A spokesperson sent a statement saying, quote, the comptroller's office is committed to strengthening city credit card policies. Updates to improve the policies are currently being reviewed for implementation. We are certainly going to keep asking for more answers here, and we'll be combing through any documentation we receive. I'm Lauren Traeger. First Alert 4 investigates.
And more on this. Today, we received a statement from the health director who says they, quote, provided receipts for all credit card purchases and received approval. No reimbursement of funds has been requested or submitted. These purchases were intended to support activities that would help in the development and morale of the department's employees, as well as to connect with community partners. Meanwhile, late today, we learned the city wants to charge us close to $1,700 to see the records experts say that you should be entitled to. Of course, we'll keep digging on this story.